Mr. Goldfarb, it is indeed a pleasure to see you again.
Great to see you.
From LA to Miami, we're doing a coast-to-coast video interview here. So the world is waiting. At least our business audience is waiting. So let's get started. What I'd really love is if you could, Gary, say who you are, your position, what your company does, a little bit about you, and that would be fantastic.
Great. My name is Gary Goldfarb. I am Chief Strategy Officer of Interport Group of Companies. Interport Group of Companies is a wholly integrated 3PL or logistics provider with a consulting arm, a technology division licensing its own technology, and offices providing logistics services, warehousing, distribution around the world, but headquartered in Miami, Florida, with operations in Los Angeles and with operations from Mexico all the way to Panama. Just opened the Peru office last week,
Right.
and we have Aruba, Curacao, where we're approximately 50% of the entire volume of the island. We focus on end-to-end store door distribution. We provide distribution for many of the hardware businesses throughout Latin America. And because of our technology, we're able to provide them information of their purchase order from the time the purchase order is issued until the items are actually on the store shelf and provided on a mobile application on your phone. That gives our customers full visibility of their inventory, and information is really the greatest, most important point in global logistics.
And what's interesting. This is part of our leadership series, and we've had very interesting discussions with executives about leadership, and a lot of times I hear that leadership within then creates a great reputation to other people about your leadership external. Um, and obviously, you have a lot of experience international, global, internal, external. What's your perspective? With all that said, what's your perspective or definition, if you will, of leadership?
Mark, I was actually at an event this morning where we were taping something for a pronouncement called One Community, One Goal, which here in Miami I've been very active with. In previous years, when I had a very large public company, I did not get involved in the community at all. And that I think was a mistake. In recent years, in the last 10 years or so, I have separated at least 30% of my time to community issues and not necessarily, uh, balls and fundraisers, but actually working in economic development within our community,
Hmm.
where I now chair trade and logistics for One Community, One Goal, and basically the Miami community. And it's very funny. We're about to engage in creating a master plan for education for supply chain here in Miami-Dade County. And because of my visibility over the last 10 years, I was able to bring the biggest players to the table. It wasn't really for me, and it wasn't for me to stand on a pedestal, but to be able to attract the Maersks and the Walmarts and the Hellmans and all of the large companies that employ, because our goal is to have more employees employed in trade and logistics.
Hmm.
By the way, in Miami-Dade County, 230,000 people are employed in trade and logistics out of a whole million. So 23% of the entire employment of Miami-Dade County is in trade and logistics.
So you would say then, and I agree with you, that leadership has a lot to do with developing relationships to be able to do some of the things you're doing. For example, bringing great talent to the table, deals that you're doing in different countries, etc. And that brings economic development, brings a lot of positive results.
Absolutely, it's a burden. Leadership is a burden. It's not a pleasure, and it's tough. Some people have a difficult time getting up and taking charge. But we liken it to you walk in a warehouse and there's a piece of paper on the floor. It's my responsibility to pick it up. And leadership is picking up that piece of paper and saying, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to pick it up. It's my turn. I'm going to pick it up.
That's outstanding. Do you find leadership differs, if you will, with different cultures, different countries?
Yes, yeah. As a matter of fact, I spent a lot of time in Peru, where my family is very prominent in
Hmm.
the government, and yeah, leadership is very different in Latin America. It's very different amongst the Dutch islands where we have a lot of experience, and it's very different here in the States. Believe it or not, it's much easier in the States to be a leader than in other countries, because in other countries it's always who have you been and who are your parents and who's your family, and there's a lot of castes, if you will, not as strict as in India, but there's a lot of castes, a lot of rules. Here, if you dare, you can.
Yeah, that's a great expression. You've interacted, sat on for-profit, not-for-profit community boards of directors. Um, what do you think it takes? What do you think the right leadership is for boards of companies and organizations?
You know, when we pick and we try to invite with the Beacon Council, we try to invite and identify who the ideal people should be at the table and who's missing from the table.
Hmm.
And by and large, every one of the leaders that we find is somebody that's unselfish. Because these boards, all of these boards, and I sit on a board of advisors of a hedge fund, I sit on a lot of different boards. The advisors or the board of directors or the executive committees tend, the people that actually succeed tend to be people that are that are unselfish and willing to do the task simply because the task needs to be done.
Well said. Well said. Let me ask you a question. With all that, you must have had an influencer or multiple influencers in your life, like we all have had different types. Can you name one or two people that really influenced your career and potentially your life?
Well, yeah, the first one was my father, who is no longer with us, but my father was a very hardworking man who had to come up on his own since he had lost his father early in life, and always did what had to be done. Always insisted on doing the most difficult things first. And doing the most difficult things first is tough. We always tend to want to do the easy, low-hanging fruit. Over the years, there was a gentleman in this community called Armando Codina who built a major company from nothing, and also was very active in the community and was very hardworking towards the community, and that inspired me. In later years, there's a professor of supply chain engineering at MIT who runs the MIT School of Engineering, Yossi Sheffi, who's been very inspiring to me and spurred me to take this step and be part of Interport and now propel Interport forward towards a global company.
One thing I've always found, and I've had and I say this sincerely, the pleasure of not only interacting with you business issues, but as a good friend, and you you've got an ability to garner people together, and you work globally. For example, you were telling me Peru, Panama recently. How do you develop in an organization like yourself? How do you develop quote unquote a winning culture like a sports team when you're that diverse and all over the place?
You know, Interport is a very unique company. On the front door, and if you go to our website at interport.us, on the front door hangs a poster that talks about the customer and very clearly analyzes that without the customer, we don't exist. And our employees pass by there every day. While I was in Peru, our employees at 7 o'clock at night Miami time were still dealing with shipments because the TV station in Peru was having difficulties broadcasting World Cup games. And while here it's no big deal, in Peru it's a crime.
Hmm.
So we were dealing with emergency shipments of that we were not going to make any money at all. It most probably cost us money to handle those shipments. But they were here, dedicated, making sure that the task was done. It takes a long time. We thank our employees for working. Um, we don't beat them up. We sit with them. If they have a problem, we sit and try to find out if we can help their problem. But we thank them because at the end of the day, they're taking care of our customers, and our customers are our friends.
Yeah, smart. And your customers recognize that absolutely. I know for sure. Talking about young leaders, up and coming people, and you mentioned how you're working fervently on education with respect specifically to supply chain and logistics, which I know fairly well too because we've done a lot of executive searches over the years, and it's a continuing to be fast growing industry. It's critical to every company as a core. As you can recall, supply chain or logistics used to be called purchasing, distribution, all different terms, but it's major now. What expert advice or some of the work that you're doing with respect to what would you tell young leaders, why and what they should do to potentially get involved in a career in supply chain?
I speak to a lot of high school and early college students, and I was instrumental in having Miami-Dade College, which is 175,000 students strong,
Right.
develop a supply chain management baccalaureate degree. But I speak to students frequently, and I tell them I don't drive a truck. Tell them, as a matter of fact, if you see me drive, you're happy I don't drive a truck. However, I've made a career and made substantial amount of money in supply chain. Supply chain is technology, supply chain is engineering, supply chain is social media, supply chain is everything. What we've done with One Community, One Goal is that we've created a culture within the high schools and colleges here to understand supply chain. We've also created a talent network where interns can go get internships and where companies can post internships to get interns. It's just as difficult for the companies to find talent
Right.
as for the talent to find the companies. And then lastly, we created a career ladder in which potential or prospective students can look at the different professions, what the professions pay, and also who is hiring in those professions. So as to give them a goal, as what do I want to be when I grow up? I didn't begin wanting to be chief strategy officer, but I ended up here because in this business, it's possible, but you need to be able to show them. So we're doing as much as possible because our goal, Miami-Dade County and South Florida in general, right, is the gateway to the America. And it's a substantial gateway, has more expertise here than I believe anywhere else in the country. I think there are more logistics companies in Miami than anywhere else in the United States. So we're a center of excellence for supply chain. We want to be a center of excellence for education and supply chain. And we've engaged all the universities, and we're in the process of creating a master plan to become the center of excellence for supply chain education for the world. Because from here, we educate the world.
I think one of the great points too is every company deals with supply chain, no matter what, pretty well, right?
Correct.
So there's tons of opportunity there. That's great stuff. I know you speak other languages. How many languages do you speak?
Fluently Spanish and English, but because Spanish and English I understand Portuguese. I took many years of French in high school, so if I have to, I speak French, and only if I have to because the accent is difficult for Spanish speakers, but I can read French fluently. And because I can read those languages, Italian comes easy as well. And I've forgotten most of the Hebrew that I know.
I was going to say Shabbat Shalom, but I got a couple more days to go tomorrow.
Right, there you go.
But on peut parler un petit peu de français si tu veux.
Right, I can read Hebrew though. I mean, I don't know what I'm reading, but I can read Hebrew.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I read Hebrew, but I can't remember. I can't remember how to speak it. But what, a quick piece of advice to young people: language, obviously, is a big plus for future leaders, wouldn't you say?
Two things: language and geography.
We don't teach geography anymore in school.
It is incredible, but I have interns coming here who can't tell me where the Philippines are,
Right.
or that the fact that the Philippines are an island or a collection of islands.
Right.
So it's when in the development of the coursework for Miami-Dade College's baccalaureate of supply chain management, we are requiring a course in ports of the world and a separate different course in airports of the world. And we want the students to come out proficient with all the major ports and all the major airports. And then the baccalaureate is going to be baccalaureate in supply chain management with a concentration in air freight, ocean freight, warehousing, inventory, whatever the discipline is, they're going to have to learn that discipline. We don't teach that anymore, but we should.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's fantastic. Real quick, I know you said you didn't grow up saying I want to be a director of strategy. I didn't, wake up one morning and say I want to be a headhunter. Believe it or not, either. But we do. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
When I was a child and I was studying in school, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And yeah, I like all animals, uh, but especially birds. I am a big fan of the peacock, hence my tie. But yeah, that's. I would have been a veterinarian. Most probably a really bad one, but I would have been a veterinarian.
It's funny because every once in a while I tell this joke about I had a candidate once, and the other candidates tell me this too often. They say, I'm really great with people. And so one time I had someone I knew more well that I could be a little sarcastic with. I said, let's call him Joe. I said, Joe, that's great that you're great with people because I just finished my last veterinarian search, so you wouldn't have been good for that anyway, type of deal.
Right.
So it's funny, but veterinarian, it's a good cause. Let's go to another subject, more back to people again. That infamous question: do you have a leader you've admired, past or present, that you would quote unquote would have loved to or would love to go out to dinner with?
Moses,
Ah,
not to be biblical or refer to religion, but here's a guy that had it real easy and decided that the easy wasn't the way to go. And
great.
took on admirably the hardest job in the world and did it to his detriment. Yeah, I don't care, and we've had this conversation before, but I don't really do things for money. Obviously, I have to get paid, and obviously, I enjoy a good life, but it's not because of the money that we do things. We do things, and then because of that, money comes.
Totally agree.
And that's the purpose. The purpose, let's do the right thing.
Totally agree. Well said. All right, some of the little personal stuff I wanted to ask you for your fans out there. Do you have a favorite sport?
Swimming.
Huh.
Swimming. Yeah, a guy by the name of Johnny Weissmuller many years ago,
Sure.
Tarzan, uh, taught me how to swim. I was maybe 4 years old, 5 years old, and I did very well. I guess he taught me well.
I
And
can
yeah, swimming. I still till today I still swim.
I can see the resemblance.
Right. Especially in the hair, right?
Absolutely. um, do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Um, not really. Not really. I don't spend too much time watching TV.
I get that answer more and more, which is actually a positive one. Favorite music?
Beatles,
All right.
followed closely by Pink Floyd.
Oh, I love both. That's awesome. Favorite food while you're listening to the Beatles?
Peruvian food. Ceviche is my favorite food.
Ceviche, little pisco sour to go along, maybe.
There you go. There you go.
Sounds
It's very
great.
healthy, actually.
Well, it's
Not the pisco sour, but the ceviche.
there you go. I love it too. Hey, listen, we really appreciate the time you take, and appreciate your friendship, obviously, as always, and wish you much success. And let's stay in communication.
Perfect. Next time you come to Miami, come and say hello.
I will for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.